Welcome to Southern Fried Baseball, brought to you by College Baseball Central, bringing you 90 feet closer to the greatest show on dirt. Here are your hosts.
Welcome in, College Baseball Central fans. Back at it again another week. It is week 6, so 4 more weeks of SEC play. It's starting to turn into the haves and the have-nots, if you will. Nick, it was another exciting weekend of SEC play. How are we feeling today?
Yeah, it was exciting. This is probably the first weekend, though, where nothing surprising happened. So that was, I guess you could say it was a relief, or also kind of, I guess, unexpected with how the season's gone so far.
Yeah, it's a little bit unexpected. I guess we can start at the top of the hour with probably the most unexpected story in 2026. The LSU Tigers probably are out of the tournament. You know, they sit having to go 8-4 through their next games. They get swept by Texas A&M. Before we jump into Texas A&M, there's been a ton of news circulating around LSU. We are hearing reports that Cooper Moore and Jake Brown are going to be done for the season. Jake Brown's obviously been hitting .214 in SEC play. Cooper Moore's been, injured for 3-4 weeks. Massive losses as Jake Brown started every game out there in right field. Cooper Moore was probably their best pitcher. I should say that I think a lot of LSU fans were kind of hoping for Cooper Moore and kind of personifying him. But, I mean, there's no beating around it. That Jake Brown loss is pretty big.
Yeah, it is. And you mentioned SEC stats. I don't know about you, but I don't think that was going to last the whole season. I mean,
No.
slumps kind of happen. He's too good of a hitter, and he's shown it in past years, and he showed it basically in the non-conference schedule how he's their best hitter and most dangerous. Like outside of, Curiel is probably like best pure hitter would obviously be Derek Curiel. Most dangerous though in that lineup and who they need to produce runs for a team that hasn't been producing a lot of runs in SEC play is definitely Jake Brown. So that's a tough one. Moore, he was supposed to throw, I believe, an inning this week is what Jay Johnson said ahead of the weekend, where they wanted to get him an inning, kind of see how he felt, get him some live reps. Obviously, he didn't throw, and then the news came out, that he's done for the year. I'm not sure if there's new news surrounding it, like from the terms of he re-injured it in the bullpen or kind of what's going on there, or if it's just, hey, best situation for the kid. We might be out of the tournament. He's obviously a draftable guy, so let's not risk any more injury. So there could be multiple sides to it.
Yeah, it's interesting too. I mean, especially with how Cowan and to some extent William Schmidt the last few weeks have pitched, I feel like LSU fans are really kind of hurtling on to Cooper Moore.
Mm-hmm.
And, I'm not really sure he would have been the Friday night guy that they had been chasing. But I guess let's start kind of in the X's and O's. Obviously, they get a good, not great start from Cowan. They get a good, not great start from Schmidt. Both guys get really kind of roughed up second time through the order. I will say the bullpen was really, really great for LSU, but that's really about it. I mean, 8 runs in 3 games against one of the worst pitching staffs historically for teams this good. I mean, it's just not going to cut it. I mean, it was a lot of isolated bat-at-bats with solo homers. It was leaving guys on base. What percentage would you put LSU to get to 14 wins and make the tournament? It would be the first time since 2011 that they would miss it.
5%.
5?
And that might be high. And I didn't say like, would you be shocked? And I know we just keep reiterating this, and it almost feels like this team's so talented. Maybe they'll eventually click. I think Jay Johnson's comments after game 1 kind of tell you everything you need to know about where they're all at as a mindset. When a coach comes out and says, basically apologize to the fans for the roster he put together and the guys that he brought in, kind of tells you something, tells you all you need to know.
Who do you think he was calling out, by the way?
I don't know if it's anybody individual. I think it was like, because obviously he makes the remarks of like their stuff where it's like recruiting off of showcase guys, or just seeing guys in the portal and looking at numbers might not be all you need. Obviously, the easy one that a lot of people pointed to was York, just because of his previous history at Grand Canyon, with the issues he had there. But I think it's a much bigger.
Caraway's another one that, again, these are all kind of rumors, but I've heard he hasn't really meshed very well either.
I could see, and because also, from Caraway's standpoint, he was loved at Oregon State, but then he left. So there, I don't know if there's some weird stuff behind the scenes.
He was not as loved as you would probably think.
Player. I guess player wise.
They were not as sad to see him go as I remember when I heard it. I thought it was kind of just like salty ex-girlfriend of like, oh yeah, like I'm better than them. But like now looking back, like it's like yeah, I mean Oregon State really wasn't too mad to see him go.
And of course when he goes there, you're thinking, especially he was the number 3 recruit in the country coming out of high school. Goes to Oregon State, starts as a freshman, explodes onto the scene in his first 20 games. Like he had like 7 or 8 home runs his first 20 college games. Was just setting the world on fire. So then obviously you finishes the year cold, like no lie, except for in the NCAA tournament, he kind of carried him a bit until the College World Series. And then you go to LSU, your mindset is, okay, I'm going to LSU to play third base every day. This is my best opportunity to get drafted, be seen, want to play in the SEC. And then when you're kind of being moved to, we're going to see if third base works. We're going to see if second base works. When you're at second base and a lefty's up, we're going to flip you with Milam so that you don't have to field a ground ball. There's like just so much weird dynamics going on.
Well, then he's had 2 separate injuries. Like he had a sickness and then an injury. Like, and I'll say this too, because I was texting a few LSU people. How bad is he that you're willing to roll out John Pearson, who's hitting under 250
and struggles to throw the ball across the diamond at times?
Like there's 2 plays. Again, I feel really weird dogging on the kid, but there was one where it was like a slow roller and he took a drop step back and guys saved by a step and a half. And then there was another one on like a very routine play where he's playing a little bit deep and he like had to crow hop to get it over. Like he had to take
he did that. That's what I'm saying.
It's just
weird.
weird.
Have the arm for it.
I mean, I guess they got to go 8-4, plus we'll probably win one in Hoover. They have Mississippi State this weekend and Georgia on the road. They get South Carolina and Florida at home. Florida is the last weekend of the season. I mean, this team has no punch. They have no heart. It feels like their season's been over since that Ole Miss game, like that 8-7 game where they came back on set. Like, I mean, everything about them sucked this weekend. Like the fans sucked, showing up late. They weren't really that loud. The team sucked, looked pedestrian. I mean, like there were so many white flag guys that Jay brought in late that, I mean, pitched good, but it's like, really? You're going with Marco Paz in a 3-run game? Like, it's just everything about them sucks, unfortunately.
Dude, I won't be it from a fan base standpoint. Yeah, it's just something they're not used to. It is kind of crazy where it's like we just came off of, we got 2 College World Series championships in the last 2 years, and now everybody's pointing at, like, they're kind of giving, and I get it, like giving the recruiting excuse of, okay, well, we are in Omaha, it makes it so hard. Dude, they had the number 1 portal class in the country. So you can't say like, oh, well, he wasn't able to get guys in the portal because of they were playing so long in Omaha. Okay, well, they still got the number 1 class. So that's not an excuse for it. I felt awful for the catchers this weekend. There was like they have to jump for balls more often than not than
they lead the country in wild pitches. ESPN had the graphic.
I saw that, and it was by like the next closest SEC team was like 27 more than like the next closest SEC team, and it's not even in there because they're also throwing 98, and the catchers are going all over the place. I mean, it's a scary situation too, like putting Gavin Grahovic, not Gavin Grahovic, Chris Hakopian hitting him right in the jaw with a pitch. Next guy steps in the box. The pitch, or luckily it was left-handed because the ball went about 4 feet like high in the right-hander's batter's box. It was just crazy to see. But let's transition.
I think the 3 plays that really kind of exemplify LSU and A&M for me this week is I forget how the guy got on, but it was either a walk or something like that. Wild pitch. Next guy hits him over. Next guy hits a sac fly. And it's like they gave him a free base, and there it is coming through. And then, Milam coming up with runners on the corners, popping up to second base. Next at bat, he hits a homer. There was one that Pearson had where it was a line drive where Cerna doesn't freeze on it, and it's right at Hakopian who gets him. Like, I mean, there's just not a lot of positives to say about this LSU team. They don't give a shit, and the fan base doesn't give a shit. The players don't give a shit. It kind of looks like Jay doesn't give a shit at this point. And I think he doesn't give a shit because he's so wired and such a diehard that it's like, I'm already prepping for 2027. Like, this team's dead to me. These guys don't want to give a shit. I'm not going to give a shit.
Okay, to the positive. A&M's
Okay,
pitching
Texas
staff.
A&M sweeps. They've won
If
10 of 11.
if A&M's pitching staff throws like that, that changes the whole thing. But I do think that was more on LSU's offense than it was Texas A&M's pitching staff. Let's see it for 2 weeks in a row. Obviously, today now that's 2 straight good outings, which is a very good sign. Aiden Sims was Aiden Sims again. The fact that they didn't have to use fresh corn until, I mean, they used him late in the game Saturday. Or I guess this one was late in the game in game 2,
And
and
then
it
he
was
pitched
kind
game
of
3.
and it was sort of like I think it was like 7 to or 8-4 or 9-4 at that point. And it was sort of just like, okay, let's get him some reps here late in the game. So it's a very good sign because they even mentioned on the broadcast what we've been saying for weeks. I think they said something like if this pitching staff only gives up 8 runs a game, they're going to win a lot of ball games. I know
They
we've
win
been
every
putting
game.
it.
Not
We've been
only
putting
not
it.
only that.
Yeah, we've been putting it at 7 and 6, which I think is more likely when they face the premier pitching staffs out. I mean, except for we've talked about that Texas series, but yeah, very very happy there. Good for this A&M offense as well. I mean, they are getting production now. It wasn't even like obviously Sorrell had a good weekend again. Gavin Grahovic is on a tear. I know I posted about it where he had 10 home runs in his last 51 at bats. Is kind of absurd. And then, but getting guys down the bottom of the lineup. We've talked about Jordan Wilson, how I think that kid has to play every day at this point. He reminds me of because of like the power he's showing early and like the fact that he doesn't swing at balls that he shouldn't. And this is the Tennessee side of me where he's very Blake Burkish. Like it's just like it doesn't matter where you throw it. Like there's a chance I'm taking you
That's
yards.
a good call.
Left center, right center. Like he's fine to go anywhere on the field. And yeah, Blake Burke is freshman year because Blake Burke by his junior year was like more of a pure hitter. But they're very very very
I
similar.
think he's a little bit
freshmen.
more athletic than Burke. Like, did you see that play that he made like in the outfield?
The dumb barehanded play. I was with
Yeah, when he just like threw the seat.
Yeah, Burke mentioned it, and Peterson started laughing immediately, and Burke was just like, "Yeah, like, luckily it's a big game because I'm sure Early said something to him when he came in the dugout. It's like, don't ever do that again.
Yeah.
When it's like that scene off of Major League when when he basket catches it and he's like, don't ever do that again, Hayes. So it's one of those things. But yeah, he's very athletic, and then like so it's just all around the diamond. They didn't get challenged a lot, but defensively they're looking a lot more comfortable. I would say now that they're kind of set in positions. Yeah, that's a huge thing because we talked about that at the beginning of the season, where it was ugly at the beginning of the season again, and it was like, okay, this is gonna be the second year in a row where they're dead last in fielding percentage in the SEC, but it's not. So that's a good sign. Yeah, nothing but positive things to say about this A&M weekend.
Yeah, before we move on, the 3 notes to me that were kind of surprising. Clayton Freshcorn has an ERA rate under 2 that they flashed on the big screen. That kind of, I was like, wait, what? Yeah, Grahovic, I mean, ever since the hand step on, he's been on a tear. But I think more so like the plays that he makes at first base, like picking balls from Kellner and being athletic, because it's weird because he's like a really athletic first baseman for as big as he is. And then lastly, Bear Harrison down at the bottom of the order, just like an outrageous stat line. I think Bronny had one where it's like OBS is in the top 30 in the country, lowest batting average, but a good chunk of his hits are extra base hits. So just absurd stats, which is a good segue into probably the most absurd weekend. The Georgia Bulldogs had a gentleman's sweep, if you will. They lose Thursday, bounce back Friday, and dominate Arkansas Saturday 26-14 behind 9 home runs. Dan Jackson hit 3 of them. Let's start with the Arkansas Razorbacks as we're kind of doing this depressing thing first. I feel like you have to move Gabe Gackle back into the rotation. Like this is now kind of back to back. He feels like more valuable grinding through 4 innings on a Sunday than spacing out his 4 innings. Would you agree?
It's possible. Yeah. I think they probably will. It was mentioned on the broadcast too, where they kind of want to get him lengthened back out where he does kind of get 4 to 5 inning outings before putting him back in the rotation. But it's not obviously Dietz needs to stay on Fridays. He's been lights out. One of the best.
Gibbler, I would argue, on Saturday has been just as good.
Yeah, well, he's been serviceable. I wouldn't say he's been just as good, but he's been like for a Saturday guy.
Yeah, I was gonna say in a realm of a Saturday, he's
been good. The other answers just haven't been there. So that I mean, they need something, and whether it's like I don't know where that's going to come from, but yeah, you can't give up whatever it was 27 or 28 runs. And I know the wind, and I know wind was blowing out hard. It was 18 miles an hour blowing out.
It was 23 hits though. It wasn't like they were.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That's what I was going to get to. And the fact that it was, and now it was rough. I will say, from an offensive standpoint for Arkansas, ever since Root Bar has been put in that leadoff role, has been very good.
He's been about a month.
He's been very good there. He kind of needs to stay. Souza didn't have a great weekend. Helfrich was good this weekend, which we said he kind of needed to bounce back. Like he needs
Mike
to
Anu
start.
had a good weekend for him as well.
Pompey.
Yeah, Pompey.
Pompey, and then, but the other guys like Robinette. Like what happened to Reese Robinette last year was so good for them, and like he's just falling off a cliff. Sometimes you forget he's even in the lineup like half the time.
Him and Stewart, I feel like are the two like they must feel like trivia questions.
Who bats seventh today?
Yeah.
No, it's so. I don't know. I'm not fully like I only dropped Arkansas one spot. I know you only dropped Arkansas. I think one spot as well.
I think I dropped them 4, but it was also more of an overreaction.
Just the week
before. Yeah. I was kind of like, it was like that Alabama loss. That Alabama sweep doesn't look as good.
Yeah, so it's. I'm still not out on them. I think they just ran into. I think it was a bad time to get Georgia, and also you don't want to play that team whether it's wind blowing out or anything, especially when you're out of pitching. Like that's rough. But Georgia again. I will say that their pitching on Sundays is still going to be a bugaboo. I mean, they didn't. I can't even think of the kid's name who started Sunday, but then they had to bring it. They brought in Matt Scott. So I'm not sure. I think it was sort of like, okay, we're going to go to Matt Scott like early. I don't think they thought it'd be like this, whatever it was, the third inning. Didn't start Ishikawa, so it was.
Yeah, West doesn't get too comfortable on Sundays. I've noticed. He doesn't look good.
Yeah, Volchko was after the first inning. Volchko kind of struggled in that first inning, but then he bared down, got him 6 innings, which is what you have to do. Aoki on Saturday was probably the star of the series, I will say. Dylan Vigil going out in the second inning with, it's been reported now it is forearm cramps, which hopefully is a good sign. I know like being around baseball a lot, forearm cramps can lead to or kind of cause concern for like ligaments and things in your elbow. So hopefully it's nothing more than that. But the fact that Aoki was able to come in second and literally pitch into the 7th or 8th was massive for them to be able to save the guys for Sunday. So for Saturday this week. So that was a very good sign.
Yeah, I mean it was a really great sign. Again, a lot of people are going to look at the 26-14 win and be like, "Oh my gosh, Georgia's." That is Georgia's 13th SEC win, so they are mathematically in the tournament. They're the first SEC team where Georgia could lose every single game down the stretch and still go dancing. So 63 spots remain, if you will.
I mean, yeah.
I think they're playing for a lot bigger stuff. Obviously, they got a very meaningful, if you will, Tuesday midweek against Georgia Tech is kind of a good asterisk point, if you will. Because it feels like UCLA and then Georgia Tech, whoever's kind of hotter that weekend. I mean, they have a ton to play for. The chance to go back to Omaha is going to run through Foley. We can sit here and talk about ad nauseum, but it's weird that I didn't really think it was that crazy that they scored 26 runs. It's kind of like, that's kind of what everybody thought they were.
Yeah, it was 8 of them in the 9th too. It's just like they kept pouring it on. I know Matt texted me and was just like, "Can we please let this end?" So that was good.
They were like right down the middle too. Like it looked.
Yeah, and it was just They literally started playing home run derby. But I will say, just to touch on, you talk about playing for more. There are very few teams I would say that need home field advantage in the NCAA tournament as much as Georgia, just because of the style. I actually argue
the opposite because they're better on the road this year.
Yeah, I get the numbers, but it doesn't. The fact that ballpark is so home run friendly, like at Foley, and I know they're hitting for average this year more than ever. Trey Phelps has still been great. Daniel Jackson once again, just best catcher in the SEC, which nobody saw coming in.
Yeah, just when you're like, oh, Ryder's good, Carson's good, and Jackson's like, yeah, he's 3 home runs.
Yeah, here you go, and So I think they need it. It's because the fact of it depends on where they would get put. And not saying they would, like they're going to host, but it's like if you end up in a super at a big ballpark, then that kind of changes things.
Yeah, like a
So I think,
Texas.
I think that's the bigger deal is where the super is played. But I thought kind of we talked about Jay's presser. I think it's very funny that Dave Van Horn. I don't know why, especially somebody as experienced as him, would give such a like quotable bulletin board like locker room material as yeah, they came into the weekend last weekend with 98 home runs against Florida. They're going to leave here with 98, or we hope they leave here with 98 home runs, and they proceeded to hit 15.
It was insane. Let's breeze through this one. The Missouri Tigers go to Oklahoma and get swept. That is 6 straight SEC losses for Missouri at 3-15. They are 1 SEC loss away from being mathematically eliminated. Again, we've all kind of said they were eliminated. For Boomer, kind of gets them right back into that as they're in that middle group. Oklahoma, we're kind of running a little bit short here. So anything you want to say about Oklahoma, but I feel like everything's kind of in front of them. If they host or not. I mean, they took care of business this weekend. Cam shoved, but other than that, it's Missouri, and you're supposed to be Missouri.
Yeah, Mercurius was good again. Was good. He kind of needed that bounce back start after the last 2 weeks. It was good to see. And you could tell the experience of the team because it was very businesslike. It was like Missouri was never in any of the games. It was just one of those okay, we're gonna put our foot down. Like they knew when to step on Missouri's throat, and they made it happen. So I'd say that's the biggest part coming out. Mercurius getting back. Cam Johnson had his good game. So hopefully that doesn't mean he has bad ones coming next weekend. Because if you're gonna have a bad one, you like it against Mizzou. But yeah, very, very, very businesslike.
Yeah, again, they sit 10-8 in SEC play, 17 in RPI. They get Auburn and Arkansas on the road, Florida and Tennessee at home. So they're all kind of 4 quote unquote winnable series, especially Auburn this weekend. Again, we'll give us a couple weeks on them. Another one that was a little bit unexpected for me, not unexpected, as I was the only one who was correct on this. The Auburn Tigers go into Florida, take 2 of 3. Auburn obviously lost Thursday 6-3, bounced back Friday and Saturday to win 5-3 and 8-5 respectively. Let's start with Florida. I feel like you have to just be kicking yourself that you lost this series because they pissed down their leg on Friday and Saturday. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, and that was one where it was, and that was why I said there's no surprise this weekend just because of I know I picked Florida along with the 4 of other us because it just felt like Florida was a better team coming in. But you mentioned it's the every other weekend Florida kind of popped their head up on the weekend. So it's such a weird resume for them. I know they have more top 25 wins than anybody in the country, but they also have some really rough losses. And obviously Auburn is not a bad loss. It's just sort of the way that they lost. The fact they lost without Bristol Carter, Marciano probably had one of his worst outings in SEC play, and that's against Liam Peterson. That's a game you feel like you should get. Russell Sandifer kind of I would say he outpitched Petrovic, and still figure out a way to lose that game. The good thing is Aiden King can win you every Friday. He is so good. Can absolutely win you every Friday. So it's just one of those and think of it it could have been worse if it weren't Blake Sear with 4 home runs this weekend. Scores could have looked a lot worse. Obviously wouldn't have won that game opener either. So they were close to getting swept. But it's hard to look past this team because of the arm talent. You look at the bats they have. Unfortunately it's one of those weird situations where it's rare for them that the whole lineup is clicking on the same day. I mentioned Blake Sear. Outside of him, they're like Lawson. Like Lawson has his up and down games. Cade Kurland. He's not the same guy right now. He'll have a great he'll go one day 3 for 4 with 2 doubles, and then 0 for 5 with 3 strikeouts. So he's very up and down. So it's just a weird situation, and especially you make 4 errors. You can't. It's very tough to win games, especially 1-run games when you make 4 errors. You can't expect to win those.
Yeah, I think for me, what kind of exemplifies it is again, I say second straight week because it's their off week where they have just a bullpen implosion in the top of the 9th on game 3. And at least for me, because I was really locked into this one, it's the drop pop fly from Liam Peterson that allows to run to score. Next guy hits a home run.
Yeah.
It's Liam Peterson probably losing at minimum 3 outs, which if he pitches longer, that's like literally the effects of that error came back to bite him on Sunday. And I'm not going to sit here and say that Auburn's a bad team. I think Auburn's a fantastic team. For reference, I actually moved Auburn to 6th in the nation because they've won 3 straight weeks. But
I have them 8.
I mean,
So yeah,
that's the scary part is Florida plays like shit against a top 10 team. And you're still kind of like, man, Florida really should have won that. Like, it wasn't like they kicked the ball around and then Georgia, scores 30 on them. They get A&M this weekend and they're on week. So, credit to them. But I guess let's move on to Auburn. I mean, they're getting production like from everybody. It feels like every single time they have somebody that's like, hey, this guy's kind of starting to slump. The next guy like immediately steps up. And, you mentioned Bristol Carter. He's kind of back. I mean, they're probably going to host. Like, they kind of feel a little bit like, I know that they're kind of in that mumbo jumbo SEC group, but they kind of feel like a step above them in that mumbo jumbo SEC group. Again, they've rebounded from the sweep at Alabama and the 2 of 3 at home against Texas. And I mean, this team is kind of rolling right now. I would not want to play Auburn right now.
No, I agree. And it's finally coming together offensively. I know this has kind of been the talking point all season where, especially preseason, it was like, okay, this offense is going to have to carry this team. And they were talented enough to do so. It just hadn't clicked, and it's finally starting to come together along with that pitching staff. And it was great to see them. This is the first time where they've actually had to win a series where their pitching staff hasn't been the story. Like, it's not like a pitching staff threw a shutout or like a 1-run, 2-run game, and Auburn figured out a way to win 4-2. So it was very, very good sign. Obviously, the brothers, forgetting their name, both had great weekends for Auburn. It feels like things are like finally clicking for Chris Rimbert. They kind of moved him around the lineup. He led off a game, they batted 4th, batted 2nd. So he's kind of moving around. I feel like he's kind of getting back to that all SEC form that we all thought he would be. So that's a very good sign. And then it's just like they are clicking right now. And nobody wants to see them. Top 3 pitching staff in the SEC for sure. And if this offense finds like any thread of like how talented they actually are, then they become very dangerous.
Yeah, they have just to pull up their tournament profile. Where'd it go? Give me a second. They get Georgia, Texas A&M, Oklahoma, and I forget who the last one is. But I mean, it's a tough. Oh, Texas. They go to Texas and to Texas A&M. So I mean, it's a tough like road ahead for them. But again, they kind of feel like they've done enough that as long as they don't get swept in these next 3 weeks, they play 500 ball the next 4 weeks, like they're going to be hosting. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, I mean RPI 5 already, so they're in a pretty good spot. So unless just all craziness happens, which when you have a great pitching staff, it's very hard to get swept because there's a chance that one of the 3 is going to be on and win you a game. So teams like that are very good and should be able to hold steady.
Yeah, and I think another thing too, when you have pitching staffs, like your losses look a lot better. Like you aren't losing 26-14, you aren't losing 12-5, if you will. They have better losses with the pitching staff. That is the halfway point. We'd like to thank our friends over at Home Field Apparel. So they have the new Diamond Classic coming out. Let's roll the grist ad.
Before we get back to the action, we've got to tell you about the best gear in college sports. The place to go is Home Field Apparel. Check out the Diamond Classics collection, high-quality throwback jerseys for your favorite team. From the Arkansas Razorbacks to the Vanderbilt Commodores, Home Field has you covered. Home Field's the only apparel partner of College Baseball Central. Gear up for game day by visiting homefieldapparel.com.
Thank you to our friends over at Home Field Apparel. These are teams that are in the Diamond Collection. The Alabama Crimson Tide go on over to Dish Falk Field. They lose 2 of 3. They get a Sunday salvage. I think they got bum rushed Friday, 10-2. Texas came back and battled back and beat them 3-1 after Zane Adams had a fantastic start. And then Texas again yesterday had a chance to win the game 2-1. They were shut out for 8 innings before they got that RBI single in the ninth. Let's start with the Alabama Crimson Tide. They are now 1-5 in their last 2 SEC series. They still get South Carolina. They still get Tennessee. They still get Vanderbilt. So the road's not too tough, if you will. But does this kind of feel like an SEC team that you really want to see in the tournament?
Like that I think should be in?
No, I mean, they're obviously going to be in based on the numbers.
Yeah.
But if you're picking an SEC team, like this feels like, I'm not really too mad that we get to see Alabama in a regional.
I don't know, because we saw this version of Zane Adams, and we've also seen Tyler. This is probably the worst start Tyler Faye's had. Literally just threw no-hitter 3 weeks ago. So I would say no. You don't want and especially this offense feels like it could click. I know it's very top-heavy for sure. Justin LeBron finally had a good weekend, which was great to see, especially defensively. He was very, very good defensively this weekend, which we haven't been able to say much this year. So that's a good sign moving forward. I know it's on turf, which makes it a lot easier. But yeah, so I guess the sign for Alabama, you're competitive outside of they blitzed is the right word. It's sort of just like they flew in and they just weren't ready and kind of got bum rushed early. So that was one of those where it's like, okay, Texas, you're kind of out of it, so then you kind of throw off. But then they were they were good. Zane Adams was good on Saturday. You're in that game, and then obviously you win Sunday, a close one. So it's like I don't think if you take whatever the last 3 or 4 weekends out of it, after their kind of hot spell, you're not mad if you're Alabama if it's like going into Austin and getting a game. Like that's what you have to do is like you want to win your home series and you just don't want to get swept on the road. Like that's literally half the story in the SEC. So I think they're fine with it. I'd be much more worried if they got swept. I know I dropped them like only 2 spots. So I still like this team. Obviously they're still going to be French host, depending on what they do. You mentioned their schedules is doable, but also like it's one of those where it's like they think their schedule is doable, but then the other teams on our schedule also see them. It's like, okay, this is a series we can win. So it's going to be interesting to see like who shows up on what weekend, knowing how this SEC season's gone. But yeah, I'm definitely not out on this Alabama team. I think they have a good chance to host still where they're at. And we've mentioned their home road splits. Like besides getting swept at home once, they're still much better at home, and it's very important for them.
Yeah, they've had a few bad losses on the road. I think for me, the thing that really kind of sells is the bullpen. I mean, they blew it Friday and Sunday against Arkansas. They blew it Saturday. They tried their hardest to blow it yesterday on Sunday. And, credit to Texas to some extent. But, I mean, I felt like they pissed away a Zane Adams start in every sense of the word. They definitely probably should have won that game. They got to get more than one run. Brady Neal's kind of starting to not cool down because he still had like a monster weekend, but he kind of feels like the only guy that you really trust. I mean, it's Fowler and LeBron.
I would say Fowler still.
But I mean, it drops off quick down at the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
And then for Texas, it's 3 runs on Saturday in the winning effort, 1 run yesterday. They did get Adrian Rodriguez back.
Yeah.
Pendergrass kind of had a really good series, I would say. But you kind of worry a little bit about Temo and Mendoza because both of them have just disappeared in SEC play. And, I mean, Mendoza's hitting like kind of near the Mendoza line.
Yeah. But as we've said, like there's a lot of – and I guess it is credit to the pitching staff in the SEC this year where coming into it, like we didn't know if there would be like any real dominant ones. Like preseason, it's like, okay, Texas, Florida should be very dominant on the pitching side of things. But now you look at who's kind of been added. Like you can say on a good weekend, Oklahoma's pitching staff is very good. You could say on a good weekend, Alabama's pitching, like if Tyler Faye and if this version of Zane Adams is on, it's a very good pitching staff. Tennessee, from weekend to weekend, starting pitching is very, very good. It's like, so the averages I get, but I think the fact of getting Rodriguez back and you can kind of move that moves Becerra and Mendoza down further in the lineup where it's not like they aren't necessarily relying on them to drive in runs. I think is a big thing. Obviously defensively it's massive to be able to move Becerra back to third. Anthony Pack, four hits again on Friday. Dude,
He's a legit hit.
just keeps hitting. The kid just keeps hitting. I'm not real worried about the runs. Like, wind was blowing in all 3 games, like fairly hard. I think it was between like 12 and 17 all weekend. So yeah,
They
I'm
just
not
feel like they're gonna go as far as Tenney and Robbins take them.
well, and Tenney is still teams are kind of, I would say Robbins, and I still think because he's a better pure hitter, but not just that fact. I think the fact that he's at the top of the order, but then you see how much people are kind of, because you mentioned the names like Mendoza hitting like in that 5 spot, and who they have 4. I guess did they have Rodriguez at 4 this weekend? I think they might have put him back at 4. So it's like after you get they're
I
actually
think
pitching.
Pack's 4, isn't he?
Oh, Pack did hit 4. That's right, because it was okay, yeah, because it was a power spot. Yeah, that's right. And so, but it's one of those situations where it's like you're not worried about Pack like leaving the yard, especially when the wind's blowing in. So they're pitching, like people are walking Tenney at a crazy rate, and I know like people are like, okay, well he walked a lot in Notre Dame too. Notre Dame's in the same situation last year where it's like, why would we let Tenney beat us? And so it's that's kind of part of the rest of the, especially 4 through 7, need to kind of be the guys because after, like, obviously we know Robbins is just going to hit, and he's been beating people, and he's won a couple games on his own as we've seen. But yeah, after, like, if teams are going to continue to walk Tenney and put him on base, it's one of those where somebody's got to be able to drive him in.
Yeah,
from behind him.
I mean it's got to be Borba. It's got to be whoever they have out and left. The platoon of Livingston and Larson. I think
Duplantier had a good week. Like actually having him in the lineup like this way, it was sort of like one of those. He's an older guy. He's been around the program. He was getting his shot kind of on and off even this year and previously in his career, and he had a good weekend. Which is, if they can solidify that left field spot, like you mentioned.
Yeah, they're still platooning. I mean, I like Pendergrass looked really, really good on Thursday or Friday. I mean,
on Friday, yeah.
Let's move on. The Ole Miss Rebels go into Lindsey Nelson, take 2 of 3, 7-4, 8-1, and then yesterday they lose 13-5. Udomark and Becerra both homer in both of those games. Ultimately, Tennessee got that big hit with Henry Ford late Sunday. What do you make of Tennessee? They feel like they're teetering, if you will, right near that cut line where they kind of got to get a little bit hot. They're 8-12, 8-10 in the SEC. They have 4 winnable series in the SEC. I want to put them in the tournament. Is that kind of how you feel?
Yeah, I was surprised when people today were like, and Micah had them out. I saw in his field of 64. I mean, they were like, you don't go from being a 2 seed last week to out of the tournament in 1 week because you lost twice to Ole Miss, who right now is obviously one of the hottest teams in the country, 6 in RPI. Tennessee right now is 31. I don't think they're in any danger of missing a tournament, especially you look at the schedule ahead of them. They're all like, they could win all 4 series. Like right now, are you worried about, like, you get Alabama at home? We just had a long discussion with Alabama. That's very winnable. You're at Kentucky, who we'll talk about in a bit, but they're reeling too. Then you get Texas at home, which
you feel like that for as bad as that team's built for Lindsey Nelson, they're built more for Lindsey Nelson than Texas.
That's what I mean. Yeah. So which is probably gonna be a low scoring series in Texas against Texas because of the 6 pitchers that all those teams are gonna run out. So those are winnable games. And then you're at Oklahoma, who we've talked about can be beatable too. So yeah, it's one of those situations. I think they're fine. It was good to see the bats come alive on Sunday. Obviously, Blake Grimmer 3 home runs, Levi Clark 2, which is massive down towards the bottom of the lineup. Henry Ford mentioned absolutely crushed one late in the game. The story of, I guess, where I will go. I mean, I'm fine with Tennessee, and people obviously, gosh, being a Tennessee fan, it's the fans are nauseating. I will be the first to admit it. I love them to death because they are die hard as can be, and it's like they can talk crap to their own fans, and we'll just be like, I hate this team. We're so bad. But whenever an LSU or Arkansas fan comes at the team, you can bet they will be the first people in line to fight them. But I think the story, to flip it to Ole Miss, dude, Hunter Elliott and Cade Townsend. Dude, Cade Townsend, ever since he came back from injury, might be the best pitcher in the SEC.
I was going to say he's my pick for SEC pitcher of the year.
I still give it to Marciano just because he's done it the entire season. But yeah, Townsend right now is is lights out. I mean, a perfect game basically going into the fifth against, people can say what they want, but it's still a very talented Tennessee offense. But they weren't even hitting the ball hard off of him, like couldn't see it, couldn't find it. He didn't miss, like, and obviously being like it was, I didn't miss a pitch and was very locked in on it. He hardly missed a spot. It was like even the balls he threw them where he wanted. It was just an insane outing. So it was one of those, that was one of those games where it's like, okay, you just tip your cap. Like sometimes you just get beat by a guy who's on, and so be it. And Hunter Elliott, terrible matchup for Tennessee when mostly outside of Henry Ford, your best bats for the most part, and Garrett Wright, I'll say that. Your best bats are left-handed. That's a very tough matchup with the two different sliders that Hunter Elliott throws, the curveball, and then like uses his fastball 50% of the time, so it's 89, 91, and he just kind of spots it up. Just a bad matchup there. So I mean, I don't take anything more from this series than Ole Miss is still hot. I think I'm surprised. Like, I don't know where it came from or like why they flipped it on the last 4 weeks and why it wasn't there at the beginning of the year. There's
It was
no
that
real
kid
explanation.
sweeping the fans out that went viral. That pissed him off.
Yeah. It's interesting. Taylor Rabe, we'll see. I still think Taylor Rabe is better than what he threw this weekend. He kind of got it. We talked about kind of Texas doing it to Tyler Fay. It felt like one of those where
he just got bum rushed.
He got absolutely ambushed like early, and you could tell it was like a pressure situation for Tennessee. Like, it was like, okay, we have to come out and we have to take this game, and the offense took it under their own control. So that was good to see. So yeah, I was fine with how the pitchers threw for Tennessee this weekend.
Other than Appenzeller, but I feel like you kind of
he only gave up 2. Like,
so with how dominant he's been, though, I feel like you almost live with that. You're like, it's like
that's what I mean. Like
he's been eating innings for us.
Like 4 innings, he threw 4 innings, gave up 2 runs to that offense, and one was because freaking Utermark is he left one
back to back.
Yeah, he left one out on the outside part of the plate, and obviously hit it off the batter's eye. It happens.
I would say for me with Tennessee, I feel like I'd put him at like a 70% to make the tournament. Like, you could kind of talk yourself into them losing these last 4 series, but you can also talk them into winning them. And they feel a lot more closer to getting to 13 or 14 SEC wins than 10 or 11. I think they're fine, barring some kind of collapse.
Yeah.
They have the arms to kind of avoid that collapse. And then for Ole Miss, I mean, man, they are rolling right now. They get Georgia, Arkansas, Texas A&M, and then Alabama. So if they can kind of survive that 3-week stretch and kind of get right against Alabama, I feel like they're going to be hosting again. Like, they're going to be right. They're going to probably be that, just like they were last year. They're probably going to be that 6th SEC team that hosts.
Yeah. Well, I think there's a chance right now with the way the other conferences are going. I had the SEC this morning when I did it at 7. But because everybody's bunched up, and obviously who knows what's going to happen in the next 4 weeks. My only question about them, obviously they're hot right now. Utermark has been good. Will Furnace has been good in situations. Tristan Bissett is lighting the world on fire.
Federico's been hot.
Federico is on a hot tear. Dom Decker has gotten on base, has the highest on base percentage of anybody in the SEC.
Owen Pano's been hitting really
Owen
good.
Pano has been hot lately. So that's my question.
You think they're peaking? You think they're doing the Mississippi State?
That's a little bit that's where I was getting at. I'm a little bit worried from that standpoint if this is the offense's peak. Now, the pitching staff, they're probably going to keep dominating. Like, especially like Hunter Elliott, we know what he is. Townsend, we know what he is. I'm very worried right now if because like we've seen Bissetta struggle at Clemson. We've seen Federico struggle at times. Like, he's never been hotter than he is right now. It's like, what happens when 2 of the 5 guys in your lineup that are so hot right now cool down, or just not even cool down, but just like come back to normalcy? Even. Yeah. It's like, what kind of happens at that point?
Yeah, I'd like to see some of that too. We are kind of running short on time, but let's go to the Vanderbilt Kentucky series, which for me was really, really surprising. Vanderbilt sits at 9-9 in the SEC. They still have Missouri. They still have South Carolina. They do have Texas at home this weekend. RPI's in like the hundreds.
I just had it up. Yeah. No, after this weekend it improved a lot. 72.
I was gonna say they feel like a case study for the SEC. Like, They're gonna like I would almost say that the ACC's SEC team with RPI where it is. Like we have all these stats, but we also have stats on RPI, and they truly are one of one, if you will. Because usually teams that are this bad lose SEC games.
This was alarming to me. So even if Vandy gets the 17 SEC wins, because of the schedule they have left, because they still have South Carolina and Missouri, if they get to 17 wins, their RPI is still 67. It's going to be it'll be a very weird situation, especially because, and in the way the tournament lined up, I think it was, if they finish where they're at right now, they would play South Carolina to open up the SEC tournament. So, like, even winning a game in the tournament, that's not going to help you. You'd have to win at least 2, depending on obviously who you get the next round. It's going to be a very weird situation.
They've never had an SEC team with 15 or more wins.
I know. But if your RPI is 67, like, there has to be some, like, and I get, we are obviously SEC biased, and I get it. Like, what's best, and everybody
we're not SEC biased about them. I would like to point that
not
out.
about them, but just in general, it's like, it's obviously the best conference. They deserve to have most teams get in. But it's like, there needs to be a certain, like, you can't just, I don't even, it wouldn't be a handout if they win, if they go 17-13, but there has to be something, and they've done it in college football where they've made teams prove it in games outside of conference. Like, your strength of schedule has to be better. Vandy did nothing outside the SEC, and it's killing them now. So
the real question will be,
from that standpoint,
is if Tennessee sits at 15-15 with an RPI in the 30s.
Yep.
Vanderbilt's got the head-to-head over Tennessee, but the RPI is just not even close. Like, what do you do kind of in that? And again, they still get Louisville, so like the RPI might come up a little bit, but I mean,
well, if I'll say
it's not going to get that much better.
Yeah. If Tennessee's RPI is still 31 at the end, that means they probably got to 14 or 15 wins. They're not even a bubble team, so it wouldn't, like, the head-to-head wouldn't come in. So it'd be an interesting from the standpoint of, then you're looking at, okay, does the SEC team, like, because that's why I put a poll up today, like, how many teams does the SEC get in? Vandy would be the 13th. I think the SEC this year, and because of the Big 12 probably only gets 7, because the ACC right now is sitting around that 7 or 8 line. Big 10, you're looking at 4, possibly 5. And it's like how many mid, like, and I get it, we love mid majors, and like, especially in baseball, like, they can make a serious run. Like, we've seen it from whoever, Murray State, Evansville. Like, there's plenty of situations. But how many mid-major schools are you willing to put in before you put Vandy in? Like, even if their RPI is at 67, that's where kind of the weird.
That's
like,
where it kind of gets tough.
Are you putting like the 4th Conference USA team in? Because 3 of those are in right now. Like, like Liberty, Jacksonville State, and Missouri State, all clearly in the tournament right now. So it's like, does a 4th team, like, does Dallas Baptist get in? Who is also sitting in the 60s, but their RPI should improve. Does the 4th?
Yeah, there's 3 Americans that have RPIs in the 30s too. When I was pulling stuff, like, there's a
Sunbelt as well. Like, you're gonna have Troy once again sitting on the bubble. You're gonna have Arkansas State kind of sitting close, who has a chance to improve their resume towards the end of the year. So it's going to be, it'll be,
and that doesn't even include the bid Steelers from
correct.
Conferences.
Yeah, correct. Because, like, yeah, you can definitely see it. Like, the Big West right now, you have Cal Poly leading the Big West, but Santa Barbara will get in as an at-large if they don't win the tournament. And right now in the Big West, there's, like, I know only 5 teams get in, but all 5 teams, it wouldn't shock me if they win their conference tourney and steal one there.
And we're so jumbled up with the Big 12 and ACC. Like, I mean, there could be an underseeded team. Like, Louisville is good enough to kind of get hot.
No, they're not. I'm so done with Louisville. Like, you go lose a series to Cal. Like, no, you're absolutely done.
Well, let's move on to Kentucky.
Yeah.
Kentucky sits at 8-10 in the SEC. They have lost 5 straight SEC series.
Yep.
They haven't been swept. They get South Carolina, Tennessee, Florida, and Arkansas. I feel like they're going to have enough to kind of get to that 13 or 14 wins.
Yeah.
Are they a 3 or a 2?
It depends. So that's their weird thing is, you can tell I didn't have much to do with this. So that's what I spent all basically the morning looking at, like, RPI stuff and kind of looking at tournament stuff. Theirs is going to be huge on who they beat and who they lose to the rest of the way, because their RPI right now is sitting at 29. They had I know we don't like to talk about D1 baseball, but they had their projection out last week, and they had them as the last 2 seed. So they had them at 30. They
Probably had them beating Vandy though.
Correct. They had them at number 32 overall. But they also did it based on like the outlook of like what the rest of the season looks like. So they're going to be another interesting thing. Like they're going to be in the tournament. Like that's like unless they fully collapse. Because like what I say, RPI 29. They will be fine. So I think they'll end up ending the season as a 3. Just because I do think
Tennessee gets them.
Tennessee gets them. Let me see. Tennessee gets them. I think
it's Florida's on weekend.
And they're at Florida. We've seen Kentucky has not been good on the road. And I don't trust this Kentucky offense against that Florida pitching staff.
Or the bullpen. I mean, this is going to be the shittiest of shit games at the last 6
I think Arkansas beat them. So I think it's going to be they need a sweep this weekend at South Carolina. That'll put them at 11 wins.
That's 14 and 16 if they sweep South Carolina and lose the final 3 series without getting swept.
Yeah.
Which would be ridiculous that an SEC team that wins 2 like that, I feel like should get talked about a little bit more. That an SEC team with 2 series victories is in. But they don't get swept. They have Jokin.
Yeah, don't get swept. Win at home. Win when you can. They're an interesting.
But I should say this: for as bad as the bullpen's been, like they have a lot of guys that they thought were going to be better than they are.
Yeah, no,
They could. I could easily see them piecing together a bullpen down the stretch here.
Maybe.
I mean, if you have, Jokin can give you 7 or 8.
Harris.
I don't know what the hell you expect from Cleaver.
Yeah, well, Cleaver coming out of the bullpen now. You need Harris to be better on Sunday. Like having him on Sunday, he's been okay. This was kind of his worst outing.
But I mean, if you can piece together 15 outs from a bullpen, like with the amount of bullpen arms that they have, like that's not too crazy to say on paper. Yeah. Granted, the ERAs are terrible.
Adcock has been good. I'll say that. They need to get Jack Bennett is still injured. He could end up filling that either rotation role or be kind of like the long reliever out of the pen. So they need to get healthy from that standpoint. Tyler Bell needs to not get thrown out of games. I was like,
that was ridiculous. By the way,
I
cannot believe he got thrown out.
He should not have been thrown out. But also, you're the best player on the team that's fighting for a postseason spot. Like you can't put yourself in that situation or even gives the umps a chance to do it. So Kentucky's in a weird spot. But I think they get in. You're right. They're probably a 3. It's just I just can't. I don't know what to think of this team right now in the situation they're in lately.
Yeah, I would agree. We do have one last series. The Mississippi State Bulldogs go on the road and take care of business against South Carolina Gamecocks. South Carolina's magic number to having full elimination is 2, so we can kind of kiss them goodbye. Mississippi State gets LSU, Texas on the road, Auburn, and at A&M. So 3 of the 4 really tough series, and I would argue that this is probably going to be a really desperate series for LSU, so they might even play up. I can be honest. I could see a regional at Starkville. I could see Starkville being a 2. I could see them losing 3 of the last 4 series. I really don't know what to make of them. I think, remember how we said a few weeks ago where we need more time on Auburn? I think I need a little bit more time on Mississippi State. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, it's another thing. They're going to look so much different, though, when McPherson's back. I believe next week now? Or not next week, but the week after next.
I would guess Auburn, I think, is when they would probably piece it out there.
LSU. Okay, so you're saying 3 weeks from now, like next to last series. It could be just because Texas is on the road, so they might want to wait until they're back home to start him. But yeah, you should handle business against an LSU team, especially you're at home. Like
you can kill them.
I get
it's a rival.
This isn't your normal LSU team, but don't tell the Mississippi State fan base that. Like they're still going to show up like it's your normal LSU team. So that's going to be fun. I'm a little, I guess, if there are worries, the pitching staff was great this weekend. Like obviously you could say, South Carolina has been hitting well over the previous weeks. So that hasn't been terrible. So the pitching staff was very good this weekend.
And they tagged up Ant Phillips, who really hasn't been easy to tag up.
Yeah, that was their best one. But even then, they were, I don't know, they were still struggling to put runs up on the board, if you know what I mean. Like, I know they scored 9, but it didn't look like they should have scored 9. Like, there were a bunch of mistakes by South Carolina. But now you're looking – this is – you scored, like, over the past, like, recent games. You scored 1 against Georgia, 5 against Georgia, 5 against UAB, 5 Tennessee, 2 against Tennessee, 2 against Tennessee. Obviously, Samford, you won by 11. You scored 11. And then 5 – we just talked about the 9, and then 4 in 11 innings. This offense is way too talented to be like averaging under basically 5 runs a game or under 4 runs a game over the last 9 games.
Do you think
Like,
O'Connor cycling them in and out so much? Like, this is kind of the roost coming to crow?
This
weekend, I think it's him looking for answers.
Well, did you notice this weekend he kind of stopped cycling as much?
Yes.
And I don't know if it was because, like, hey, we're winning at South Carolina. Like, this is kind of the thing. Like, Garrett Fry played every game. Ace Reese still isn't quite being Ace Reese. Teal had a good weekend. It's a confusing one. Obviously, they are so patient at the plate, which I almost want to – like, I almost think they're too patient at times because we talk about how good their on-base percentage is. But this offense is too – like, needs to be more explosive. I think this LSU matchup is great for them just because, like, LSU's pitching staff is all over the place at times. Where if they're patient, like, they're going to get walks in, like, hey, 3-run blast or double in the gap, should kind of lead to it. Now, Texas is a different story, where Texas makes you put the bat. Texas makes you beat them, which A&M did, like, handily because of the, like, Texas puts the ball, like, in the strike zone and makes you beat them. Can Ole Miss do that against Texas? We'll see. Like, that's 2 weeks away. Obviously, we're getting off base, but yeah, I think there's not much. I don't take much out of this weekend. Obviously, I picked them to sweep. You're expected to. I think the offensive struggles might be real. Like, we'll find out against LSU. You get back home, which hasn't been friendly. Obviously, you've lost your last 6 SEC games at home, so maybe it's not. But I think they right the ship, and obviously we'll talk more about it in our pre-weekend show. But they should handle business.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. That is all that we have time for. The Rydell Report is coming up here in 3 minutes. Thanks for tuning in. We'll be back here Thursday at 6 o'clock. Break down everything that we'll see coming up in week 7, talk through some more tournament stuff. If there's any midweek madness, I'm sure we'll talk through that. Thanks everybody for tuning in. We'll see you Thursday.